I would like to welcome you guys to a special podcast our special podcast recording session today. Now, the reason why it's special is not because there is anything going on at the moment. It just so happens to be that today I'm out and about. I'm getting the car serviced, and so this is just one of the live episodes basically. So I'm up and about. I'm at the mechanic yard. The car is getting worked on, and so apologies for all the sounds that you're going to hear, the clanking. The different patrons over here arguing and shouting, generators going on, you know how things are at mechanic. But anyway, so this is just part of my promise to you guys to make sure that the podcast episodes come out as and when I promise, even if we don't have perfect recording conditions. So today I would like us to look into things to watch out for in communication. We have gone over the communications matrix, the different considerations that we need to have, clarity of purpose with the message, feedback, and the different biases that our potential clients have and how they filter the message, and we've gone through all that jazz. So today I just want to cap it up by pointing out a few things that we should keep a lid on, things that affect our communications even though they might come across as trivial. So one of those is typographical errors. Now, since a lot of us do a lot of work from our phones and our tablets these days, it actually is a very big problem, because with back when a lot of us were computer dependent or laptop dependent, we could get away with typographical issues because Windows, Windows Word, was it Microsoft Word? It has that autocorrect function, that flagging function, things like that. So errors don't tend to show up as much. But on the phone, it can become quite an issue, and the autocorrect on phones particularly are really messed up. I mean, sometimes you write something and it autocorrects to something that was entirely not what you had in mind in the first place. So if you're going to do text-based communications, you're sending emails from your phone or text messages, WhatsApp, it's something that you have to be really mindful of. So typographical errors. Now, at one of the in-person sessions that we had, one of the students there came up with a, she came up with a tip for how she avoids these sorts of issues, and that's by using Grammarly. Grammarly, I'd been aware of Grammarly up until that point, but I knew it to be a web-based application. So it was running on my web browser, and so it would flag mistakes, not just in spelling, but also in grammar. And so she told me and the rest of the class that now they have they're also phone-based as well. So you can install the app on your phone, and it'll be there as one of your native dictionaries and one of your native keyboards. And so you could be typing on your phone, and it would do the same thing. It would pick up any errors in grammar, errors in spelling, and now she says it also has a plagiarism function as well. So if you happen to be cutting and pasting, if it looks like what you're doing is using copy without attributing, it's something that it will flag there, so that you don't pass off any ideas that are not original, and you pass them off as your own. So that's something that you guys can check out if you haven't heard of it, or if you've been using it but only on the web. When you're on your computer, it's now available for the phone. Again, that is Grammarly, and that is Grammarly. So Grammarly, as in grammar, just like we were taught in school, and you just add an L and a Y to it. So a reminder, clear purpose, absolutely essential, especially when we're doing text-based communications. Some people waffle on, and before you know it, the email is now very long, and you have to scroll, 3 or 4 times just to get through the whole thing. Most people these days don't read everything. They are skimming. So don't kid yourself. If you're sending a long email, it's not going to be read in entirety. You need to have a very clear purpose and get straight to the point. So brevity is also really important. We have to get straight to the point. If you can, one email, space everything out in simple lines. If you can achieve it, let it be so short that people don't have to scroll. You open, you skim, you get the point, and your client can respond. So if it's about, let's say, the deposit, for instance, you don't go on and on and on and on and waffle. You just make the email nice and short. Good morning, Chinedu. I tried calling several moments ago. It's concerning the deposit. Please remember that you have to make a deposit of 500,000 naira for us to be able to start work immediately to meet the deadline for next week. It's that simple. It's that short. There's no need to wax on and on and on and on and on. So Chinedu can open that email. He can see at a glance what it's about, and he can get on it. Of course, remember that you have to follow up as well. Then the last thing that we ought to pay attention to is providing information sources in our business communications. Well, this one might not be a problem when you are dealing with clients, brides and grooms only, but for those of you who are involved in other stuff, like I do work for NGOs. I provide photography and video services for NGOs as well, and then the corporate sector. So some of these things become much more important, especially since a lot of these things are going to be text-based, because people in the NGO space, in the government space, and in the private sector are notorious for wanting to keep things to email. So, with the way we run things in the wedding industry in Abuja and in Lagos, I'm sure a lot of us would prefer to just get on the phone and hammer things out immediately. But when you're dealing with NGOs, they want there to be there has to be a paper trail. So you can be done with the conversation and they'll say, oh, you know what, send me an email and say the same thing, and then you have these long email chains. So that's it. Things to look out for. Be careful about typographical errors, especially for those of us who work on the phones. Have a clear purpose when you're sending out your messages. Keep things brief. People don't like scrolling up and down to get to the point on their phones, and people are not reading every single word in the email. And then also remember, if you are involved in other sectors beyond weddings and events, beyond the wedding space, if you're doing some work with NGOs, with the government sector, and people in the corporate sector, let's say you are providing planning services for, Zenith Bank or Pencom or whatever. All these things, they come in really handy. You have to pay attention to all these tips, and remember to provide your information sources. So you don't necessarily have to put everything in the text of the email. Whatever reference documents that you need, you can attach as what are they called? As attachments. Yes, as attachments. Okay, so that's it for today. We're done with the episode of things to look out for in communications. And so at the next recordings, we'll move on to listening skills, because for some reason, a lot of us, before we get into business, we don't realize that part of the battle of communications is not about being an effective talker. It's not about being an effective toaster. A lot of it has to be about being an effective listener. If you don't know why and you don't agree, then hang on for the next episodes, and it's something that we will pass out. So thank you very much, guys, for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based event and wedding photographer, Tabishima Ayede. Thank you for your time and attention. Hopefully at the next recording, we won't have to be out about on the road and in the wild. Hopefully we'll have a better recording environment and some good acoustics and no distractions. So you guys have a wonderful day, and catch you at the next recording.